Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us this evening for the community meeting about the design of the Adult Education Center right near Wheatley Elementary School. We are recording this meeting and it will be posted both on the OCPS Facilities YouTube page and on Melissa Bird's school board member page. A few housekeeping notes about this meeting. If you're in as an attendee, you're muted and your camera is off. You can use either the Q&A or the chat tool. And if we need some clarification, you can advance the slide.
Great. Here we go.
Thanks. Okay. So the video icons you see are panelists who are available to answer questions. I'll be introducing them shortly. If you do have any technical issues, I put the phone number for WebEx into the chat. So today,
hey, Lauren, can I interrupt you real quick? When you put your head down to read, we can't hear you very well.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
Here, is this better if I slide over this way?
Yeah, when your head's up, it's fine. It's just when you put your head down to read, we couldn't hear you.
Okay. I'm gonna try to not do that. Okay. So this is a community meeting about the initial design of the school. We're at what we call the 30% design stage for this project. So we will come back again and have another community meeting when the design is completed. But before I introduce the panelists, school board member Melissa Bird, who represents this area, has welcoming remarks for us.
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to get together tonight to see where we're at with our design for this much awaited community building that we are so excited about. I know this is a project that has been in the works for several years, way before I was on the school board. In collaboration with the Orange County government, with our county commissioners, with our city government, with the school district. So it's really a partnership, and it's one of those projects that makes you feel like you're doing good for the community. So I'm thrilled for it. It's something that's really going to be an asset to our community, and I know that the community itself is very excited about it. So I'm just thrilled to see where we're at with the design, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Melissa. So before we get started with the presentation, I just wanted to introduce some people who are here, and if other people log on later on, I'll try to catch them as well. But I did want to mention that in addition to board member Bird, we have Area Superintendent Melanie Stefanowicz, who oversees our career and technical education. Parker Antoine is also here from CTE. My name is Lauren Roth. I do communications for the facilities department. The principal of Wheatley, Lakeisha Miller, is on the call. This project is being designed by Baker Berrios, and George Thomas, who's running the presentation, is from Baker Berrios. Jay Klima is the civil engineer on the project. The PM team project manager is Dora Lopez de la Nuez. So what she does is she's the connection between OCPS and the architect and then the construction manager. We have Mo Arthur, who's the project management team design manager. We have Matt Akins, also from our OCPS team. Both Christopher Mills and Stephen Thorpe are here from OCPS planning. Police Commander George Olemsky from OCPS Police is here. I saw Venia Burns from our OCPS Office of the Fire Marshal come on. Popka Mayor Brian Nelson is here, so thank you for coming on. Christina Pichardo Cruz from Orange County Traffic is here. I saw Nicole Kennedy from Apopka hop on, and Brandy Driggers from Orange County Zoning, and Rod Love, who was temporarily the commissioner and was really integral to making this project happen. I saw that he hopped on as well. So thank you all for being here. And now I'm going to hand things over to Melanie Stefanowicz. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As Lauren said, I'm Melanie Stefanowicz. I'm the Associate Superintendent for Career and Technical Education, and I oversee Orange Technical College campuses as a part of my duties and responsibilities. We're excited to share with you that we will be opening this as what we're calling an integrated education and training center. It will be an extremely flexible space to support adult basic education, English language learning, people interested in pursuing their high school credential, but we're also going to integrate career and technical education courses based on community needs. So we're really looking at making sure that this facility provides the needed electrical, water, data so that we can move different career and technical education programs in and out of the facility as is necessary. That's what I have for you.
Thank you. George, you're muted. That's better.
Okay. Well, I hadn't actually said anything yet, but the Adult Education Center will be located in Popka, across the street from Wheatley Elementary. So it'll be on the corner of 18th Street and Central. The property we've arranged will provide some on-site parking, which you'll enter the parking lot from South Central Avenue, and when you leave the parking lot, you would be exiting out 18th Street. We're currently designing a 2,500 square foot building, but having a capability of adding another 2,500 square foot building in the future. We'll have landscaping, and we'll have entrances off the parking as well as the street entrance. So it'll intermingle nicely with whether you drive or whether you walk or ride a bike to the campus. The building for phase one, the 2,500 square foot building, you'll have two secure points of entry, one from the parking, one from the street, which will meet into a kind of a workroom, meeting room that guests that can come in, they'll be able to be met by the administration and kind of describe the programs that are going on there. And then we'll have a 1,200 square foot classroom building in which the learning process can be done in. And with the support spaces we have there, obviously we'll have air conditioning and data, electrical connections and things like that to make this a high-tech building, but also restrooms for the students and staff. As with all projects, OCPS is very forward-thinking in terms of energy savings, water savings, making sure that the building will be a low-impact, high-technology performing type building. And we'll be designing to meet Green Globe standards as required by OCPS. The schedule, we started back in June 2019, and we will be permitting the project in January of 2020. We plan on about 7 months of construction, completing construction in July of 2022, and then move in fully operational by August 2022 of the new school year.
Okay, thank you very much, George. Since we are a small group here today, if you do have a question and you're in as an attendee, just drop a line in the chat that you want to be unmuted, and I'll unmute you. Or if you just, are listening from home and you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat or the Q&A. And if we have anyone on from the county or the city who just wants to mention something, this would be a great time, because I'm just waiting at this point to see if we get any questions in. Yeah, George, if you could just bring up that site plan, that way if that jogs any questions for people. Oh, do we have a graphic of the elevations? Oh, Christine's on. Where did you? I couldn't see you. So Commissioner Christine Moore is also on. I'm sorry, I missed you, Christine. I would have introduced you if I'd realized you were on. We don't have the elevations yet. We will have that at the 100%, I would assume. Dora, can you confirm if we're going to have elevations?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we will have elevations, and so we'll have them for the 100% design meeting. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And Christine, you should be able to just unmute and speak.
I had one more other question. Hi, everybody. Can you talk about the naming process and when that will begin?
Melissa, do you want me to explain or do you want to explain that?
Sorry. You can feel free to go ahead and explain that. That's fine.
Okay. Basically, it would follow the same process that we've been using for schools, which would be for a community survey to go out. There would be 2 surveys. The first one, we'd be looking for suggestions. And then the second one would be a top 3, essentially. And the top 3 would then go to the board for the choice of the final name. And I know, Christine, we had discussed that, when those surveys go out, we'll certainly need, assistance from your office and from Mayor Nelson's office. And obviously Board Member Byrd will be putting it out there, really getting those surveys out so that people who want to suggest a name, they do so, when we do that.
Lauren, it's Melanie. Can I chime in?
Please.
So this is an Orange Technical College campus?
Right. Yep. So does that mean it wouldn't follow the normal process?
Well, it's, for our accreditation, which is separate from the K-12 accreditation, because it will have post-secondary programs there, it would be Orange Technical College. And if you wanted, we could look at a Apopka campus. I mean, we have like our Mid-Florida campus, our Orlando campus, our West Side campus. So, I mean, I can confer with Dr. Vasquez, but this is an Orange Technical College campus.
Okay, I hadn't realized that it would be named that way, which does make sense. Okay, so I guess we're going to need to get clarification from Dr. Vasquez if this goes through that process at all then.
This
Rob.
is Commissioner Morgan. So there is a gentleman, this was the Davis store and property. I know former Commissioner Luff's on the call as well. And that family had reached out to my office. And so I know they were interested in having the Frank Davis maybe room. I mean, would there be opportunities to name the room even if the campus was under the auspices of the tech center? Would there be a dual possibility to make sure that that family's name was preserved?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, so I guess we'll need to run that up the flagpole.
I will definitely have that conversation with Dr. Vasquez.
Okay, and Rod, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you and everybody for just, making sure that everybody was invited and entertained with this meeting. But there should be some documentation that the Orange County Public School Board should have relative to the community. This may have taken place, had to be at least 2018, I believe, that came together and there was a polling done regarding the naming of this facility, and it was done in concert with Orange County Public Schools.
With this, I'm not familiar with that. Do you know? There was a I remember there was a discussion about what we were going to put on the sign. I remember there being a conversation about how we were going to phrase the name on the sign, but that was just for, if it's the thing I'm thinking about, because I was trying to think what would have been happening around then. My understanding was that was just for the orange sign that we put on the site. Is that what you're referring to, or was it a different set of names?
I do recall and remember that it was a topic and discussion, and I think this went on for about 30 days, and it was reference to the naming, and the name, Mr. Davis' name was in that top 3 polling as well. I don't recall who was engaged, but we received the direction as it relates to the process from the Orange County Public Schools. I'll try to go through any records that I have and get them to you, but it was a community effort that there was polling done. Mr. Davis' name was in that polling, and I can't remember the other individuals, but whatever I can find, I'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you. And Christine, I'm just going to tap you since you were the board member at that time. Do you recall anything about this?
I don't from back then, but I've had contact with the Davis family since, and they're really standing by to provide information about his life. He was very instrumental in that store. And I think that's the family home, Rod, you know, that they just bought to expand it. I think that was all the Davis property that the school will sit on. So certainly the family is very interested in being involved in having something named after Mr. Davis, because he was
there
really
was a
ahead
great
of his
deal of
time.
history. There was a great deal of history. I think it was a gas station. It was a boarding house. And this was all, again, yes, underneath the Davis family. But, and I saw another community resident, Antonia, that was online. I will try to get that information, but I believe she was involved and engaged in this process as well.
I saw her come in, and so I'm going to unmute her, and Rogers Beckett, or you should be able to unmute yourself now too. And let me get Antonia unmuted.
Okay, how you guys doing? I just had a quick question. I noticed that you guys mentioned about the future expansion to the north of the current building. If that were to take place, what would happen in regards to parking? Because it looks like you're going to take at least 6 parking spaces away at that point in time, and then you're expanding the building. So how would that impact the site?
George and Dora, and I believe that interpretation is correct, right? That we would lose those 6 spots if we expand it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So would parking just need to be, you know, off-site?
Yeah, we
You know,
anticipated the Wheatley has excess parking, so they can park across the street at Wheatley. That's what the plan was.
Okay. Antonia, you're unmuted if you'd like to speak.
Good evening to everybody. Thank you, Mr. Love, for bringing that up, because there was an extensive meeting and extensive conversations about the naming of the building. And this is my first time hearing that Wheatley has excess parking, and so that they will be allowed to be able to park over there. I think there needs to be another evaluation of that.
And Melanie, let me just ask you, would a technical center what kind of hours would, if this was like other technical colleges, what hours would it tend to operate?
We run from 7 a.m. all the way through the evening.
Okay. So there might be some times of day when Wheatley would have space, but then there would be other times of day where they potentially would not. Okay.
Yeah, and I think the parking with this building was always an issue. And before we acquired that second piece of property that is allowing that future expansion, that we didn't have any parking really at the building. We were going to have to use Wheatley or yeah, I think that's what that was the discussion was, parking at Wheatley Elementary School. And then we really didn't want to have to do that. So we were able to acquire that other piece of property and expand the footprint a little bit, and it allowed us that parking on site, and then the ability to have that future expansion. So yeah, parking was always going to be an issue because this is such a small piece of property.
And there definitely was. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. As we're talking about expansion, one of the other things that was discussed originally, and I know things may have changed a great deal, but originally when the expansion discussion took place, it was to build this with the possible future ability to expand upward. Is that off the table?
I believe it was redesigned from 2-story to 1-story, and and the parking was added. Dora, do you mind filling out that a little bit more, like what the reasoning was on that? Because I apologize, I don't remember what all went into it. Or Matt? Or Mo, maybe?
Hey, Lauren, this is Mo. Yeah, I'll expound on that. So the plan, we did look at a 2-story version when the lot size was 1 lot, and with the acquisition of the second lot, we looked at expanding horizontally. So in the future, we would add on to the building to the north in lieu of a two-story building.
And is there a significant expense difference? Is that why we were looking at that?
There is. So we looked at comparison, and really adding the second lot gives us more options. So with the smaller lot, there was no other option other than going vertical, which means taller walls, and it affects vertical circulation with stairs and elevators. So those are things that aren't contemplated when we have a one-story building. So now we're able to expand without the need to provide stairs or elevators and things like that.
Could you possibly,
Guys, we have limited parking, and just as Roger Beckett mentioned earlier, as that future expansion takes place, it's going to eliminate that additional parking. And the plan originally and always has been that the overflow parking would take place over at Wheatley. I know we're so far down the field, but the fact that having the ability to expand upward, and that this was going to be retrofit to the extent that when resources became available, because we're so dependent upon the legislature and things of that nature, that we realized it wouldn't be in any immediate future. I don't know from the development design, and I don't want to go backwards, but just a note, if we were, going vertical, that would actually save those additional parking spaces. If you know the geographics of Wheatley and its parking, it's a little walk from the proposed facility to either one of the parking locations for Wheatley. But that's spilled milk. I'm just glad that we're at the point that we are. So I just wanted to make mention. Going vertical was a discussion, but I'll be happy to see a groundbreaking. So thank you.
Thank you. So it does sound like we have some questions that we're going to need to address for the 100% design meeting. The next meeting would be in the fall. That's when we would be hitting the 100% design point. And by that point, we should have an answer on how the naming is going to work. If it follows the traditional OTC pattern, I think we would probably even know, Melanie, possibly by that meeting, what it was going to be called. Is that possible?
I will let you know. I did text my boss.
Okay. So we should hopefully have some clarification on that, and whether, a room could be named, or, kind of what our options are. Christine, I see, Christine, you put in a question. I'm sorry, I wasn't really looking. I'd like to hear a few details about the low impact development employed on this project. Do you, Christine, and you can certainly unmute yourself. Do you mean like the green slide? George, could you bring up the environmental slide?
Sure.
I was just going to say that I would love to hear a little bit more about the standards, the green standards, and in particular, the stormwater drainage pond.
Oh, the stormwater drainage pond. Okay. Jay, do you want to talk about the drainage pond?
Sure.
Hi, Jay.
Good morning. Good evening. I mean, not good morning. Wow, that was been a long day, I guess. Yeah. So what we're doing on the drainage area, we are planning on doing one larger dry retention area, and then we got a couple of dry retention swales. What we have currently shown is sized for the build out, meaning the future expansion, if you will, and when we lose the other 6 parking spaces. So that's what we've got going in terms of the drainage. Was there a more particular question?
Just how would that be different from what you would have done before we have this terminology, low impact development? I guess I'm trying to understand what the differences are.
Well, I mean, I think the low impact on this would be that we're taking all of our drainage, we're putting it into a dry pond. We got really high perking soils, so that water is going to perk down into the ground, as opposed to having any other impact, you know, downstream. So that's always one of those things that we take a look at, is try and have pond facilities. Actually, I mean, frankly, right now, this property doesn't have any stormwater management. So the fact that we're putting in stormwater management is helping from a low impact standpoint as well.
And Jay, that does affect the number of parking spots we can have, right? I mean, because we need to put aside some of that space.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we went through a number of iterations to maximize what we could do out here. So yeah, this is what we determined is the most we can do between building, parking, and meeting our stormwater management requirement.
Hey, Jay, I got a question. Could you guys have done maybe the pervious surface to maybe reduce the amount of retention pond to maybe increase the parking spaces on that site, or maybe underground, I guess, sewer system, I mean, retention pond underneath the parking lot, something like that?
We did consider doing exfiltration. That was one of the things that was being considered at one point in time, but there's a premium in terms of the cost associated with putting in the exfiltration. So we went away from that to doing the dry retention ponds. As far as the pervious pavement goes, there's very limited value in terms of the stormwater management permit that we have to get from the water management district for the pervious pavement, and it kind of gets outweighed, honestly, especially with a project of this size, for the cost, because the cost for the pervious pavement is definitely bumped up, and then you have ongoing maintenance that you have to deal with, which is not very entertaining as well. So I would say that's mostly cost related why we went in this direction.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any more comments or questions? And Rod, I'll follow up with you after the meeting, you know, and we can talk about that 2018 process, but it sounds like we're going to need to wait on, you know, how this is going to work. And then if maybe there's a room naming we can look at if that's not going to be part of it. And, you know, I apologize for misstating it. I didn't realize. So. So Melissa, would you like to close us out with any comments?
Sure. Thank you again, everyone, for coming on. I know that you know, it's kind of a brief presentation. We'll have more to show when we get further along in the process. And like Lauren already said, we'll be having another meeting when we get down the road towards the 100% design. And then before we know it, it'll be time to break ground, which will be very exciting for everybody. We will definitely continue to talk about the things that were mentioned tonight, and try to get some of those questions answered for you. I know that, you know, the cost of the center has always been a concern. You know, we're trying to figure out how to build this building with you know, limited funds. So so that's always been kind of a concern, and I know that that was part of the reason, as was mentioned earlier, with us going from the 2-story to the 1-story. It was definitely more cost prohibitive to do the 2-story. So so I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. But I do, again, I appreciate all of you taking some time just to see what's going on, and hopefully we'll have some more information for you soon. Thank you, Lauren, for everything you did to get this prepared. Thank you to all the participants for your help along the way, and we will see everyone soon.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone. Everybody in the room here is a partner, so thank you for all your help. Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Lauren.
guys.